So the first one I got here, oh my goodness me, this is all over the place, this one. Dear V.A. Brahm, Venerable Sir, I have discovered a new friend. This late stage of rebirth, arthrocracitis. Suffering, dukkha. Well, this morning when paying respects to Lord Buddha, one bowed once. That was a bowed, crack, crunch, noisy one, bowed 3 times. Hello and goodbye, quiet knees. Now it seems one's noiseless get up and go has become down with a crack, squelch, and crunch. So like all good Buddhists, should one become very mindful of this experience with new friends, be peaceful. Oh, also calm and mindful in the moment, because this too shall pass. Yes, so Venerable, everything is impermanent, even crack this. May we all be peaceful in all situations. If you're cracking up during this retreat and you've got creaky joints, please eat more oily food. Makes sense to me, because the oil you'll get in your joints and you won't make any crack again. Just like my old joke to the kids, what animal needs to drink a lot of oil and why? And the answer is a mouse. Because it goes squeak, squeak. So you also need to have some more oil. Can one choose not to enter in the stage of full enlightenment, or is it an automatic process? Is this what the Bodhisattva does? The Bodhisattva is before you even become a stream winner. But once you become a stream winner, once you're on Buddha air, I'm sorry. That Buddha air only lands at Nibbana Airport, no other place. And you can't go up to the pilot and say, let me out. I'm afraid it's too late. Once you're on Buddha air, it goes all the way to Nibbana. So I'm sorry, for many of you, it's too late. You cannot choose not to enter or to postpone it. It's an automatic process. You've been brainwashed and that's it, so you're all gone. Last night you mentioned about the project which involved donation. I do not go online. Can you please explain the whole concept of this center in details as follows, so that people can help advertise it by just giving a CD of this retreat to those who are keen to create merit, their generosity of giving in monetary terms? Most of all, would it be a project of sustainability, e.g. dish and shower water can be recycled automatically into flushing the toilet and watering the garden? Usually the dish and shower water goes back into the curry for the following morning. That's why it's really tasty. Why not? Makes sense to me. At least the brown water can go into coffee. It's called recycling. We're really into recycling. When I die, I have given instructions. When I die, I do not want to be buried. I don't want to be cremated. I want to be recycled. It makes a lot of sense. Just put me in the blender. Make a nice curry out of me. Would that be very good? Make more people vegetarians, I'm sure. Yeah, or even better, look, if you go up to the top tonight, you've got the yellow recycling bins. Every Friday we collect the rubbish. So you've got the yellow is the recycling bins in Australia. You've got them all over the world. So just get a little bin liner and bung me in it and put me on the yellow recycling bins, which means every Friday it just gets taken back and recycled. And number one, it doesn't cost any money. And all these, getting people to take time off work to go to funeral services, that really sucks, doesn't it? Having to take time off work, go to this funeral and that funeral. It's really sad and depressing going to funerals. So just in the recycling bin, you just put it in there, it's taken away, it doesn't cost any money, and it gets recycled back into the earth or something. Isn't that a wonderful thing to do?
What about sky burial?
Sorry?
Sky burial.
Sky burial, that's even better. And the sky burials, they used to do those not just in Tibetan Buddhism, that was Thai Buddhism as well. Because in a monastery where I ordained Wat Saket, that was just outside the city, they used to do sky burials there. There's photographs of them. They just to get the old body, and all the vultures would be waiting outside. And as soon as they put the body down, the vultures would come and peck it to bits, in just a few minutes. Now that was real recycling. And then after they only left with the bones, they'd crush the bones and then put them in the gardens. What a wonderful way. So if anyone wants a sky burial, we've got a few parrots and a few cockies over here. I'm sure they soon get this of the message. And you can have a sky burial, or even an ant burial, even be better. Because the ants, they'll also pick you clean in a few minutes. So any takers, please put in your will that you want to have a sky burial or an ant burial in Jhana Grove, and I'll arrange it for you.
Is it legal?
Shh. No, it's not. So anyway, this is supposed to be about the donations. Okay, this is Dharmasara Nuns Monastery. These two ladies over here. You can ask them what they're doing over there. It is, interestingly, the building is not going to be made of bricks. It's going to be made of these super-duper new environmentally friendly sandwich panels. And you know what they're called? What they're called? Nirvana panels, yeah. It is. It's some company over in Perth makes these Nirvana panels. They're prefabricated, but really, really good. Good insulation, good strength, environmentally really good, and they're called Nirvana panels. So that's what it's going to be mostly made out of. But the problem is in Australia, if you ever build something in this country, it costs a fortune. And this is a bit scandalous, but there was an article I read recently that just like electricians, just one of the trades, electricians in Australia for the same work cost 3 times as much as electricians in UK. So the same work, they get 3 times the amount of money. So that's why building is really expensive up here. So unfortunately we can't do much about that except to get the monks to do the building. But we've done enough building. That's why we get the monks to fix things up over here, because it's the best way of saving funds. So, but you can't do big buildings like that. So there's going to be Nirvana panels, make it as environmentally friendly as we possibly can. And you do all of the water here. You see those big concrete tanks, which the water is recycled. Unfortunately, because of the law, we can't recycle it on the garden here. We had to build a garden a long way away to recycle the wastewater from here, because health and safety regulations, unfortunately. But it is all recycled. Hello, Ajahn. So if you want any more details or any more information, just ask the two nuns and they'll get some idea, especially Venerable Gotami, about what they're doing and why they're doing it. Yesterday you spoke about the man with no brain. I thought meditation caused more neural connections in the frontal lobe. This guy was not meditating, he was doing maths. That's enough to fry your brain. So this was a guy with no brain, but if you meditate indeed, you get bigger brain. This was proved in a research done in Harvard University. It's right next to the Insight Meditation Society in Boston. And they were following meditators for 7 years. And they found direct evidence that through meditation, your cortex, the brain which does all the hard work, actually grew in size. It got thicker. You literally get more megabytes between your ears, or gigabytes. For me, it's gigglebytes. But you do get much more. So actually, your brain actually grows through meditation. That's been proved. But this was not a Buddhist. It was just a guy who was at university. And he was very smart. So you don't need the brain to be smart. You mentioned today insight or vipassana, but you didn't mention how to do it. Can you please give us some instructions? I did. You weren't listening. You don't do vipassana. You sit there on Buddha air and somebody comes and gives you the insights. You sit under the tree and you don't do anything. You don't go throwing sticks up or shaking the tree or climbing the tree. You sit underneath and you open your hand out and the insights fall. That's how it's done. But you've got to be patient. Some of you are not patient. You've only sat under that Bodhi tree for how many days so far? That's nothing. Just carry on. Keep your hand open, sit still. Because if you move slightly, that is when the mango falls and it misses it. Be very patient. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. So there are two types of patience. This is serious. The two types of patience are called waiting in the future and waiting in the present. And please know the difference, because one isn't real patience at all. Waiting in the future is waiting for something to happen. You're waiting for the mango to fall. You're not in the present moment anymore. You're expecting. So when you're doing this practice of letting go, please do not wait in the future. You wait in the present, right now. So you're not waiting for something to happen. You're right in this present moment. So be careful there, because when you wait in the future, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Then it never happens. So remember what real patience is. Not waiting for something to happen in the future, waiting in the present. Dear Ajahn Brahm, in the sutra, when the Buddha gave Dharma talk, why did people get straight away enlightenment? Yes, the Buddha only gave one teaching and everybody became enlightened. I've been teaching for years and still no. I must be a terrible teacher. I always say this, the job of a teacher is to get rid of disciples. That's their job. A teacher in a school or university. You've got to teach the students so they learn the lesson, they graduate and they leave. Imagine that if the people kept coming back to the same class year after year after year after year, and some of you have been coming here for years, still coming to the same class. I must be a terrible teacher. If this was university, I'd get the sack. So my job is to try and get rid of all of you. Not through my bad jokes. Get rid of you. Get rid of you just by teaching you so you know exactly what's going on. So in the time of the Buddha, number one, look, the Buddha was an incredibly powerful teacher. And number two, when you hear about people becoming enlightened in the time of the Buddha, it wasn't just through the teaching, the sutra. It was all the other things they did beforehand. They were meditating sometimes for years and years and years. That's why there is a group of sutras called the Theragatha and Therigatha. These are the stories of the enlightened monks and nuns who actually wrote their stories down, and it tells that some of these were going for years and years and years before they became enlightened. And I will say Anuruddha was 17 years before he became a stream winner. And he is one of the chief disciples of the Buddha. So when actually you read their stories, you read that what you actually read in the sutras is just the final moment when they became enlightened. You read their own personally written stories, and you see they went for years and years and years before they became enlightened. But their classic story is, and this is not recommended, so I have to tell Daniel to please lock all the cupboards and hide the ropes this evening. There was one nun who had been meditating for 7 years as a bhikkhuni. How long have you been in robes now? Sister Gautami?
Coming to 2 years.
And you, Pasada?
As bhikkhuni or
Well, in robes, both. 3 years. That's just really young. You're baby bhikkhunis. So... very good. That's more like it. So this bhikkhuni, 7 years, and she wrote her story. 7 years, she hadn't even a moment of peace in her meditation. No beautiful breath, no nimittas, nothing. 7 years she was trying. So on her 7th anniversary, she said, okay, it's hopeless, I can't meditate. So what she did, she said, well, if I can't meditate and I can't be a bhikkhuni, I don't want to go back to the lay life, because going back to the lay life, this is how they described it in those days, was going back to the 3 crooked things. And this was like a metaphor. The three crooked things for a woman was, number one, the broom, which they had to sweep the house with. It was a symbol of housework. She was not going to go back to housework again. The second crooked thing was the ladle they used to make the curries with. And that was a symbol of cooking and kitchen work. She said, no, I'm not going to go back to the kitchen work. And the third crooked thing, you know what the third crooked thing was? The husband. I'm not going to go back to him again. So that's why they say that when a woman became a bhikkhuni, they left behind the three crooked things: housework, cooking, and husbands. So I'm not going to go back to those, but I can't stay as a nun, so there's only one choice. She got a length of rope. She went into the forest. She climbed a tree. She tied one end of the rope to a branch, the other end of the rope to her neck. And she was just about to jump off to commit suicide. And then she had her first deep experience of peace. She was letting go. Now, don't try that. I mean, that's just... that's going a bit too close to the edge. But, you know, because she just totally abandoned everything, she let go. She was about to let go of her body by killing it. Then she knew exactly what letting go was. And she got into a very deep state of meditation. And she said that was the start of her enlightenment. So you see what happens there. It's not easy for everybody. It takes a long time. But sometimes just one little thing happens, whether it's about to commit suicide or hearing a little story, patachara, meditating, getting nowhere, and a wind blew the oil lamp out. Got insight. So sometimes simple things are just enough just to tip you over the edge so you let go and become enlightened. So that is actually how it happens. It's not just, just all in one go. It takes a long time. Okay, here we have another book. Dear Ajahn, once when staying at your monastery, I practiced metta for a day or two, only alternating with walking and a bit of letting go meditation. In other words, you went to sleep. That's what I call meditating flat out on my bed. My method borrowed from yours and Ajahn Sujata's too. The metta grew and grew and grew inside my heart, spreading through my body. Eventually there was an intense pink ball of metta in the area of my heart. It felt so real, like it was a tactile thing of this world. You got PS, it was glowing, malleable thing like soft, smooth pink plasticine. Then it burst out of my heart and my entire being was pink and metta. It was the most exquisite pleasure I have ever experienced. It was blissful. After this, I was late for lunch and hurried down and found myself wanting to smile at anyone at all with the most profound, deep love and smiliness. Feeling vulnerable, I kept my eyes averted. I found I was vulnerable later when I overheard someone being sensitive to someone else. It hurt me very deeply indeed. It shocked me greatly and I kind of fell from my metta mind with a bit of an ugly thump. But still, boy, was that ever worth it. With lots of metta, I wish it were that much. Thank you. So just an experience of what happened when you get into doing some loving kindness meditation. Get some nice nimittas and it really makes you happy. These are the experiences when you get peaceful and you let go. It makes it very, very beautiful. And of course, you couldn't hold it there because doing a bit too much and you came down with a thump, but still it's worth it. It's worth it to experience that peace and that love. And interestingly, those people I was saying yesterday with the near-death experiences, when they do go through that light, they always go and say they have this experience in absolute ecstasy, just more peace than they've ever had before, and just so much love, so much pure metta. And from those experiences, from your own experiences, you realize that the pure metta and pure ecstasy are just one and the same thing. This is what happens when you get into these very, very high bliss states. When you come out afterwards, you can call it all sorts of names, but the usual name is ecstasy, bliss upon bliss, or just merged in pure absolute love. Interested? You want. That's what actually happens. But as I kept on saying, the only way you can get there is letting go of all wanting. Just keep on doing just what we've been talking about here. Just making peace, being kind, being gentle. See how still you can be. Stop trying to control things. The two types of meditation, second noble truth meditation, I want, leads to suffering. Letting go of wanting, just being content, happy to be here, this is good enough, making peace with things. That, when you build it up and build it up and build it up, that leads to the bliss states. So I'm keeping on saying that because people always make the same mistake. They always want. Anyway, in the suttas, it states that the Buddha, upon attaining the fourth jhana, directed his mind towards destruction of the taints. How does one do this after jhana? Direct the mind, a good translation. P.S. If you have time, likewise, for knowledge of appearance and disappearance of beings according to karma, as you have given instruction elsewhere on recollecting past lives. Thank you. Okay, this is what happens after you've emerged from the jhanas. So you do the jhanas first of all, and I should have really said this morning about how you use those jhana experiences to destroy all of those illusions, especially these so-called taints, the outflowings. There's three outflowings: karmasava, bhavasava, vijasava. Basically, sometimes they say fourth. That is the mind going out. They call it taints. I prefer outflowings. Looking for sensory happiness. Happiness in the world of the five senses. And that is destroyed when you realize what happiness truly is. So you've just had the biggest bliss of your life, way beyond any pleasures of the five senses. And you realize that that happens when you let go of all the five senses, when they disappear. And you realize the best happiness is not seeking pleasure of the senses, but letting them all disappear. So if you really understand why the jhanas are pleasurable, you won't be so interested in seeking happiness in the world of the five senses. That outflowing because of sensory desire disappears. But the more interesting one is the bhavas. Well, the avijjas was just illusion. An illusion is usually, as the Buddha said, thinking that what is suffering is happiness, what is happiness is suffering, getting it all the wrong way around. Just like I say, when people are born and die, have you ever noticed when a baby is born, it cries and all the family are happy, smiling? They're not looking at what the baby feels. They're happy, even the baby is crying. And when you die, the corpse is smiling and everyone else is crying. They get it the wrong way round. So, the person experiencing these things, there should be, the ones you follow. So when somebody is born, cry, oh, how sad it is. Oh, I've got another kid to look after, keep me awake at night. Oh, I've got another grandchild to worry about. Oh, that's sad. Oh, you grandparents, do you cry when you find out your daughter's given birth? You say, oh, that's so sad. When somebody tells me that, my daughter's just given birth to a son. I say, oh, my condolences. Never mind. And they think I'm crazy. And when somebody dies and they say, oh, my father died, I go, woohoo, yes, great, marvelous, when are we going to have a party? And they're going to die somewhere. They're free from this. Especially if you die young, you don't have to go to old people's home. It's terrible going to old people's home. Do you want to go to old people's home? So you should be like Dr. Kesri Dhammananda. When he was told by his oncologist that his cancer was terminal and there was nothing they could do for him, he burst out laughing. And the oncologist told me personally, he said he's the only guy he'd ever known, whenever he told his cancer was terminal, he actually burst out laughing. So that's a monk. That's someone who understands what this Buddhism was all about. So when they say you're going to die, woohoo, sadhu, 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 yes. That's a real Buddhist. I don't know if you heard about the story about that guy, and his doctor told him, said, your cancer's terminal. And he said, oh God, how long have I got to live? And the doctor said, 10. 10 what? 10 months, 10 weeks, 10 days? And the doctor continued, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. That's terminal. Okay, now what am I doing here? Oh yeah, so that's actually what the destruction of the outflowings. So, I mean, the main reason why do you think? Why do you do things? Again, it's to be, as I mentioned earlier on, the connection between doing and being. And so the asura of being, that is destroyed when we realize there's no one in here. There's no one in here. So to actually see that, you can't think that. If you think that, you just go crazy. But when you go in deep meditation, especially in these jhanas, there's no one there. You have a look. No one in my body, no one in my mind. You look all over the place and you can't find Ajahn Brahm anywhere. Can't find anyone anywhere. When you know there's no one in here, that has profound effect. You're not doing anything anymore. You can be totally lazy. People can call you a pig. And they look, and who's a pig? You all know the 3 characteristics of existence, anicca, dukkha, anatta. You know what anicca means? It's impermanent, dukkha, suffering, anatta, non-self. So, anicca, dukkha, anatta walked into a pub, into a bar. These are all jokes, they always start off with anicca, dukkha, anatta. Walked into a bar, and...
Was that painful?
No, dukkha. Dukkha said, this bar sucks, it's terrible. Because now dukkha means suffering. Anicca said, don't worry, it will change. And anatta said, who said that? That's a Buddhist joke. Anicca, dukkha, anatta walked into a bar. Okay, anyway, where are we going at? Yes, right, so when you learn how there's no one in here, then that is where the outflowing of doing vanishes, or the outflowing of being. There's no one here to do anything anymore. So this is what happens after the 4th jhana, any old jhana. You couldn't call them any old jhana, they're all great. So after the jhana, you look back and find there's no one there, and that's where the asuras, the outflowings, are destroyed. Dear Ajahn, how long nimitta stay in front of you? Just one moment. That's all there ever is, remember. So if you're thinking of how long, you've lost the present moment, you're in time again, you're measuring, and you've lost the plot. So the nimitta is only one moment, and that moment is called now. Do you still watch the breath or keep walking while the nimitta is there? Oh my goodness, if you're doing walking meditation and nimitta comes, you're going to bang into the wall. Because when you've got the nimitta, it's so bright you can't feel your body anymore. You don't know what you're doing. So if you're walking outside, you keep walking. We may have to go deep into the forest to find you because you haven't stopped walking it. You just keep on going because all you see is this beautiful light. You just carry on walking. You might end up in sort of, the Indian Ocean because if you go that direction, you may end up in Sydney if you go the opposite direction. I don't know, but it depends which direction you're going. But you'll keep on going. Because nimitta is just too bright and you just lose all idea of the body. But if when you're sitting down, so if you actually do see a nimitta, just sit down, because then it goes deeper, and close your eyes. And if it's your breath, the breath disappears, it's done its job. When the nimitta disappears, do we still continue the meditation? You've got no choice. If the nimitta disappears, you're going to jhana, you just haven't got any choice. But if the nimitta disappears, still carry on. Enjoy yourself. It should be fun. I have been following step by step the instructions from the Ajahn Brahm the last couple of days, and I can say they are working. I told you so. Where's the but? I have left behind the human doing and rediscovered my human being. That's very nice, isn't it? Not the human doing, the human being. That's a very good line there, because you're just being, not doing things. So don't be a human doing. be a human being. Because of that, I have been enjoying doing nothing, and I have had every day some wonderful and peaceful meditations. Thanks. Okay, but just out of curiosity, would you clarify meditation as doing something or doing nothing? It's not doing something, it's not doing nothing, it's nothing doing. There's a really important difference there. Doing nothing doesn't work. It's just another form of doing something. It's nothing doing. That is meditation. But great, you're following the instructions. So if it's not working, why? Because you have not been following the instructions. But never mind, I forgive you. It's all very good. When I was doing my meditation today, I was feeling so calm. And I clearly see my breath very peaceful. And later on, I felt that I was not breathing, so light. My hands were so light, but I couldn't, another but. I could hear all coughs and sneezes. I did not want to get out of that bliss state, and am I approaching correct? As you told, my sole intention was letting go, not to achieve anything. Long live Ajahn. Thank you so much. I agree with everything except that long live Ajahn. I don't want to be long. You should say fat live Ajahn. That'd be much better, or thin live Ajahn, I don't know. But anyway, that's very good. It does actually work. So you're calm, seeing your breath very clearly. I felt not breathing. Everything was so light, and my hands were so light. You could still hear the coughs and sneezes. That's the last thing which disappears. But after a while, you probably have experienced the coughs and sneezes like being a long way away. As you get more into yourself, you find, yeah, you can hear the sounds, but they're like 100 miles away. And then they disappear. You didn't want to get out of that state. Excellent, well done. Because your sole intention was letting go and not to achieve anything. Your sole intention was letting go, not to achieve anything. Your sole intention was letting go, not to achieve anything. Brainwashing you. Dear Ajahn, how to simplify the whole teaching of the Buddha into just one sentence. People just cannot be still at all nowadays because of the bad effects of modern information technology. Can we be too serious to say it will one day destroy mankind? What about womankind? It destroys you guys too. What can we do? Thank you. Very easy. To put the teachings of the Buddha into one sentence. It was a lovely sentence I said to someone today. When you want something more, you can't enjoy what you already have. The whole Four Noble Truths fit into that wonderful saying. When you want something more, you can't enjoy what you already have. Even if you're a billionaire with yachts and private aircraft and big mansions and swimming pools and butlers serving whatever you want to eat, if you want something more, you can't enjoy it. So even you may not be a billionaire. You may be just, just average or even poor person like a monk or a nun. When we don't want anything, we can enjoy everything. But when you want something more, you can't enjoy what you already have. So don't want anything in meditation, then you can enjoy what you've already got. So that's Buddhism in a sentence. So you can all go now if you want. Dear Ajahn, it's the 5th time someone has spoken to over silly things. Today I've had to put my finger over my mouth and say, shh, and I felt bad. Why is it so hard for people to keep quiet for 9 days? Because people are people. It's like asking a dog not to bark. It's like asking Ajahn Brahm not to tell a bad joke. It's like asking the birds to keep quiet. It's just what people do. They're noisy. So because they are noisy, yeah, you can remind them, but look, they are going to speak. They're going to make noise. So you can't stop that. So instead you just, okay, you can do a shh here and then. And then you don't allow their speech to echo in your mind. In other words, they speak and say stupid things. And then afterwards, You totally forget it. You don't go back to your room or in here and think, why are they saying stupid things? I don't like them saying stupid things. They shouldn't say stupid things. We should get people with a gun to shoot people who say stupid things. We should punish them. We should have a dungeon in Jhana Grove where we can, like a cell where we can put people who break the rules. You can have all sorts of ideas like this. We can have little police, like, police who are walking around, and anybody who has actually said something or speaks. Maybe have CCTV cameras, and Daniel could monitor everybody throughout this place, and as soon as you are seen speaking, the security guards pounce on you and put you in the dungeon room for 2 days. And in the dungeon room, you have constant Ajahn Brahm jokes played 24 hours a day. Oh no, anything but that. That'll drive you crazy. So this actually, you can think like that, and what you find out, they've stopped talking a long time ago. But you keep thinking about it hour after hour after hour. So where is the main noise? The main noise is not in their speaking. The main noise is in your thinking. When you realize that, you think, how stupid I am. They're not the noisy ones. I'm the noisy one. I can't let it go. So they stopped speaking half an hour ago, but you're still thinking about it, so you're the noisy one. Dear Ajahn, Lord Buddha had stated occurrence of life on other world. What do you think about it? Do you believe in devas? If so, where do they live? Can we see such devas when we meditate? Okay, life in other worlds. Yeah, you've got, how was it, Cole's New World? That's another world. Okay, fair enough. You've got other, well, yeah, there are supposed to be other worlds. Aliens, have you seen any aliens? I got a picture of aliens over in Bodhinyana Monastery. It's weird. Small aliens, about this size. They're in a display case in a monastery in the north of Thailand. Weird, but true. So maybe there are real aliens. Just because you haven't seen them does not mean they do not exist. So, and the Buddha said, yeah, there are aliens in other life. If ever you go to Heathrow Airport, there's actually a line there for aliens. It says, aliens this way, EU passport holders another way. So there's aliens over there. In the United States, you've got lots of aliens over there. And so, yeah, there are aliens. Do you believe in devas? If so, where do they live? Okay, this is the best deva story. This is not a joke. This is not like one of those joke stories. This is real deva story, because I know the guys involved in this. There was this young American. He was doing Peace Corps work in Thailand, and after 2 years of doing his Peace Corps work, he decided to try to become a monk. He'd got to know the Thai culture, and he respected Buddhism. And in Thailand, you can become a monk just for a short period of time. So he thought, what a good idea, after doing my 2 years, before I go back to the US and get my career going, I'll become a monk for a short time. So he was staying in a hotel just on the outskirts of Bangkok. And he asked the concierge, I want to become a monk, what should I do? Now, concierges, they know a lot about other places to go in Bangkok, but they don't know a lot about monasteries. But he did know there was one monastery called Wat Bawon in the middle of Bangkok where there are sometimes some Western monks. So he said, go to Wat Bawon early in the morning, take some food, and when you see a monk, offer the food to the monks on alms round, and ask the monk, I want to ordain, please help me. And that was the instructions he was given. So he went to Wat Bawon, but early in the morning for him was about 4 o'clock. And when he went outside, the place was locked. There was a big wall, everything was locked up, and he didn't know what to do. He was walking up and down, wondering what to do, when a Thai man came to ask him, "What are you up to?" And he said, "Well, look, I want to become a monk, and I was told to come here early in the morning with some food, and I've come with some food, but the place is locked." And the Thai man said, "Yes, it's far too early. The monks won't be out for another couple of hours yet. They could only come out at dawn." But the Thai man said, "Doesn't matter, I've got the key. I can let you inside and show you around." So he got out a bunch of keys. He opened this old metal gate and took him inside to the main hall where, it's a main ordination hall and where they do all the ceremonies. And this temple, Wat Bhawan, is actually a royal temple. It's where the kings of Thailand become monks for short periods of time. So he opened up the door to the main hall, turned on the lights, and on these old temples in Bangkok, they have all these murals on the wall. And the murals actually tell a story. But Thai art means you have to find out what part to start with. And it's like a cartoon. You have to follow it in a chronological order, but sometimes it weaves all over the place. If you know the story, you can work it out, all the characters, and see just how it goes from one place to another. In an ordinary cartoon, you have a strip, so you can go from left to right, and that way you can know which is first, which is afterwards. But with the Thai temple paintings, it's just all over the place. So this Thai man explained all these paintings and the stories. He knew everything about these paintings, even who sponsored it and why, because maybe they had a child who died, they wanted to make merit for the child. And he was full of so much information. The American guy said it was fascinating. And then, when they got to the last painting, this guy timed it perfectly. He said, "The monks are going to come out in about 5 minutes. You go out there and stand in the front and wait for the old monk to come out. Maybe some young monks first of all. There's an old monk who'll come out of that gate, put some food into his bowl and ask him, because he's one of the senior monks." And so that's what he did. And the Thai man, locked up, turned the lights off. And so he did that, just as the Thai man said. A old monk came out, put some food in his bowl. "I want to become a monk. Wait here until I come back and I'll take you inside." And so that's how he started his training to become a Buddhist monk. But the monk they appointed to teach him all the chanting and the basic rules which he would have to follow, could not speak good English. And the American got a bit frustrated. And one day he said, "Is there not anyone else here who can explain this in better English?" And the Thai monk said, "No, this is the best person we have." And then the American said, "What about the temple attendant who let me in the first day? He spoke perfect English." "What temple attendant?" "The one who opened the gate and showed me inside." And at that, they took him straight to see the abbot. Because there is no temple attendant who can speak perfect English. And so he started talking to the abbot about what had happened that morning. And the abbot interrupted him, got the secretary, and got him to start from the very beginning. Because there is no temple attendant who can speak English. That particular gate, and I know this because I was in Thailand for 9 years, that is called the Royal Gate. The only people allowed through that gate are royalty. Not even the head monks, not even a monk like me can walk through that gate, only royalty. And only the abbot and the abbot's attendant has got the key, not any lay person. And apparently that the place, the lights were turned on, you can't turn on the electricity there, and no lay person's got the key to the hall. And the explanation of those paintings, not even the old abbot knew that explanation. It was so weird because no one knew the existence of this man, and he didn't have the keys, and he knew things that no one else knew about that hall. And after finishing the description to the point where he went outside to put food in the old monk's bowl, the abbot, who's currently the Sangharaj of Thailand, he's very, very sick, he stays in the hospital all the time now, but this was when he was an abbot and fit. The abbot asked him, "What does he look like? Can you explain his features to me?" And you know what the Americans said, "You Thai people all look the same." He didn't know. And so I can't describe it. He was scratching his head. And what you do when you're thinking, you look around, and that's when he saw him. There was a portrait on the wall of the abbot's room. It was him. That was who it was. It was King Rama V. An old king. He said that was him. An old king. That was why he can walk through that royal gate, because he is royalty. And that's why he knew all about those paintings, because he was there when they were done, about 150 years previously. I know that monk. That is a story which is in the history of Wat Bhawan. A true story of a Deva, an old Thai king, who came down to help a Westerner become a monk. There are such things as Devas. They are very rare. But that is one of the truest, most authenticated stories of a heavenly being appearing on this earth. It's inspiring, isn't it? It's true. Anyway, last night, after not being able to sleep because of insomnia, I couldn't resist the temptation to pick up my book and read a couple of pages. What I read was about the Buddha's daily routine, and incredibly, he spent most of his day and night helping others and slept only 1 hour. Is it true? The book mentioned as well that the Buddha used to use his psychic powers called the Buddha Eye to scan for people that needed help. Is this possible? Please comment. So this evening is psychic power evening. No one really knows how long the Buddha slept, but he says usually about 4 hours or 5 hours, not 1 hour, just like one watch of the night, which is usually 4. No one really knows 4 or 5 hours was what they say he slept. But sometimes he took a nap during the day as well. And so that's actually what the Buddha did. So he slept for quite a few hours. And he used his psychic powers, the Buddha Eye, to scan for people that needed help. Not just help with their homework or help with their finances or help with their love life. That's what people keep asking me. No. If you want help with your love life, you know those monuments outside, they are similar to the ones at Borobudur in central Java. And you can see there's a Buddha statue inside. And actually that's made from the same stone as the temple in Borobudur. And it is 108 or 1.08 times the size of the ones at Borobudur. So slightly bigger, but roughly the same size. And according to the legend of those stupas, if you climb up and put your hand inside, the diagonal apertures there, if you can manage to touch the Buddha inside, then you will be able to find true love. That is the myth. That is the legend. So if I see you, Venerable Jag,
I was going to ask you, have you tried it?
I gave up a long time ago. If I find you two nuns, especially Venerable Gotami, I will tell the nuns. So if you want to find true love, that's what you do. Go up there and see if you can touch the Buddha. And if you can, then you're blessed. That's the old myth. How did I get onto that one? Oh yeah, the Buddha Eye, psychic powers. So the Buddha would help people not find true love, but actually to try and help them with becoming enlightened. So if he saw someone who's really on the edge, about to become enlightened, then he'd go and help them. What's your opinion on using kasinas as alternative to breath and samadhi practice in conjunction advantages and disadvantages? The kasinas is when you visualize these colored discs. It's one way of generating these nimittas instead of going through the breath. They are usually much more difficult unless you have a very visual mind. If you're a person who can actually visualize things so clearly, and maybe like an artist who can draw and paint, then maybe kasinas can be useful for you. But usually most people, if you can do the ordinary breath meditation, you can do the kasinas. So it's very rare that people teach kasina meditation, where you get these coloured discs, you visualize them until you can close your eyes, and just with your eyes open, your eyes closed, it appears just the same. That is very, very rare. Dear Ajahn, the way of life in this retreat centre is superb, marvellous. No, it's not, it's very good. I like it very, very much, the noble silence, but I do not want to be a monk. Why not? Isn't that sort of hypocritical? You like it very much, but you don't want to be a monk. I would like to have a life, at least more closer to these standards. How can I achieve this? By raising up the family and among with all the relations and friends. How can I explain to them about this secret of happiness in life? They will never be able to understand, so please explain how to mingle with my friends and family without chasing what you learned to me, without changing what you learned to me in this retreat. Okay, yeah, it's wonderful on this retreat. And you find when you go back to your family, you're a much more peaceful person. So you do change. And you don't change all the way to becoming a monk or nun, or maybe you want to become a monk or nun one day. Why not? It's a wonderful lifestyle. You can do so many things. You can travel the world, just like me. If you like travel, don't join the army or the navy. Just become a monk, and you can travel all around the world and stay in great temples or monasteries or even hotels. And you can meet the Queen, and you can have breakfast with the President of Sri Lanka, and you can see severed heads in autopsy rooms. It's a very fascinating life. So it's the job fulfillment is wonderful. But the pay is no good. But the retirement benefits are out of this world. So if you want to be it, why not? So I'm really trying to get more people to become monks or nuns. It's a bit of a problem because we've got no space for people, but why not? It's a wonderful lifestyle. So if ever your kids say, yeah, I want to become a monk or nun, let them. Amazing, the fulfillment which I get from being a monk. Now, when I was at Cambridge, looking, what should I do for your career? And I was trying to be rational, and I wanted to fulfill two major requirements. You had to have some profession where you could make a difference to the world. You can help people. You can really create more happiness in the world. You had to be giving and kind. And the other thing, it had to be a job where I was fulfilled as well. Well, I got happiness. And looking at this career, 38, 39 years as a monk, it's amazing how I've fulfilled those two requirements. Personal happiness is way through the roof, much more than I ever expected. And now it's not just personal happiness, you can really make a difference in the lives of thousands of people. I'm not joking, thousands of people. You're always getting people sending emails of just what a wonderful job I've done and just how you've changed their lives, saved their marriages, kept them sane, stopped them committing suicide. There's thousands of those. So imagine the fulfillment I get. And that could be you. So why not? It's a great life. You've got too many doctors and nurses and engineers and business people. You've got plenty of mothers and fathers and people messing around doing all these different jobs. But imagine more monks and more nuns in the world. And how that would help the environment, because we don't have children. The biggest problem in our world today is overpopulation. So at least I'm doing my bit to solve the world's population problem. So I should be subsidized by the government. Okay, where are we going with? Okay, so it's very good. So how do you get back and spread these wonderful teachings to your family and friends? If it has really worked for you here, if you've learned something, you will be a much kinder, more peaceful person when you get home. And that is how you influence other people, not by teaching them how to meditate, but by who you are and how you behave. And if you're more tolerant, more soft, more kind, more forgiving, that will impress them more than anything you can ever say. Dear Ajahn, did the Buddha ever discover or mention why we can't recall the memory of the past lives? Regards. I don't think he mentioned it in full, but he mentioned how you can recall the past lives. And once you recall the past lives, then you can understand how karma works. That was part of the other question. But you've got to recall the past lives, first of all. And one of the reasons is because, when the mind separates from the body at death, separates from the brain, it's free. But also when it comes into the body at birth, it tends to get enmeshed with the brain. That's why sometimes young children can remember their previous lives when they're 3 or 4 years of age. But when they usually get to about 5, 6 or 7, their mind gets so enmeshed in their brain that they've got just this new brain, this new life, and they just forget they can't access those early memories except through meditation or through hypnosis sometimes. So that's actually what happens. Your mind comes into this body after its previous life. You can usually remember things pretty easily. But then after you start growing up, you get caught up into this new body and you can't remember anymore. Or rather, the memory becomes out of reach from you. Many, many thanks for all your inspirational talks. Be still, be in the present moment. Do not go anywhere. Every day you remind about this morning and evening, which helps me in my meditation so much. It echoes in my mind. Thanks for brainwashing me and engraving it into my body and mind. May you long live. Not again.
What a curse.
Well, it is a curse. Imagine what it's like to live long. I always remember the story of the 2 old men. And they were 80 years of age each. And one said, "Oh, just rotten to be 80 years of age. My legs ache, my knees ache, everything is falling apart, and I just get so tired, I can't do anything for myself. It's really terrible being 80 years of age. What about you?" He said, "Me, I'm even older than you, and I feel like a newborn baby." "How can you feel like a newborn baby at 80? "Easy," he said. "I've got no hair, I've got no teeth, and I've just wet my pants." Well, it actually shows you what happens when you get to 80. You go back to where you started again. You can't remember anything, and you have to wear nappies all over again, and they treat you like a kid. So, jeepers. Do you want to do that? No, please, don't curse me with long life. How much time do you think a mind, a soul, a water stream can stay between births until it finds another womb? Thank you. We're just talking today that how many people can see ghosts who are really, really old? What's the oldest ghost a person can see? In some of these old countries like England, maybe they can see 100, 150 years, 200 years. But can you see like a caveman ghost? Thousands of years old. What do you say? Cro-Magnon man or whatever. Or can you see dinosaur ghosts? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? It'd be really cool to see a dinosaur ghost. So usually, I think, maybe 150 years at most, maybe. And that's usually because people think they haven't died. They just go, what it's like sometimes? You're in the sleep, you're not quite sure whether you're alive or you're dead, whether it's true or whether it's not true. You may have these dreams of falling and think, I'm dying, and you wake up, I didn't really die after all. But other time it feels real. So a lot of times, being in the ghost realm is like that sleep state. You're not really quite sure what's going on, which is why you can be in that realm for a long period of time. And the job of a good monk or anybody else or a nun who's trying to help these people is to tell them, you're dead. You died. Time is gone now. It's time for you to let go and take a rebirth. So sometimes that happens. Dear Ajahn, can devas and other heavenly beings guide or help us if we ask them? It depends what you ask them. If you ask them just for the lottery numbers, no way. They got better things to do than that. If you ask them, I've lost my car keys, can you help find them? Of course they can't. It's amazing what people ask these heavenly beings. No wonder the heavenly beings get pissed off at us and don't ever come down. If it was something really useful, like sort of, the meaning of life or something, or how we can meditate better, then maybe the devas might come down and help you. But only if it's really important, such as another deva story for you. Such as, how many years ago was this now, when we held our, you were there, Sister Gotami, the 30th anniversary of our Buddhist Society of Western Australia. And I think, Kanchana, you were there as well, weren't you? Yeah. And Amanda's obviously, and maybe Chi Wei. 30th, and Bonnie, 30th anniversary of our Buddhist Society of Western Australia. It was maybe about 15 years ago now. But anyway, at that time, our president, Sol, he suggested we do a ceremony. And he wanted to do it on the South Perth foreshore. And it was me who said, no, if we're going to do this, let's do it big time. We've become established, we've been quite successful. It's time to really show off that Buddhism has arrived in Western Australia. So let's see if we can do it in Supreme Court Gardens, which is right in the centre of Perth. And so he checked, and the Supreme Court Gardens were free that day. It was Sunday, Vesak night, full moon night. Everything was perfect. This was our 30th anniversary. The full moon of Vesak fell on a Sunday in May. The place was available. We booked it. And it was no expense spared. We want to make a really good show. We invited many dignitaries, and of course the main dignitary was the Premier, Jeff Gallop, who was Ajahn Sujata's friend. So we got him. He was going to come. Had other dignitaries, such as ambassadors coming. Another Thai ambassador came. And we really went to town trying to get a very beautiful ceremony happening. And imagine how much preparation that takes. The morning of the ceremony, it was raining. And it wasn't just ordinary rain. A storm was coming to Perth. And it was going to hit Perth at 7 o'clock, the time we were going to start the ceremony. The rain never let up all day. 3 times the Premier's office called me. Are you cancelling Ajahn Brahm? The storm's getting worse. The last time was an hour and a half, I think, before we were going to start. 3 times I said, no way, we're going ahead. One of the monks, Kanchana's present husband, Chris, I'd always remember Chris. He was a very nice monk, but he took me aside and they dragged me by the arm and said quietly, Ajahn Brahm, look, I really respect you, but you've gone too far this time. It's pouring down with rain. We can't hold a ceremony. You've got to cancel. And he was really trying to argue with me. And I said, no, we're going ahead. There was another guy who was an old sailor, who'd spent his life, sailing ships, around Australia and overseas. And he came up to me and said, look, I've seen the weather forecast. I know these things. This was my life. It's going to get worse. The barometer's going way down. There's going to be a storm hitting. We have to cancel. No. So that's when I started doing some really heavy chanting for these devas. And what happened, as you all know, about half an hour before the ceremony, the rain stopped. About a quarter of an hour, I was in the VIP tent. And I remember Shirley Jackson, she's dead now, coming, rushing into the tent, crying, Ajahn Brahm, you've got to come out, you've got to come out. I thought, oh God, what's gone wrong now? I thought there's been some accident or something. Because, I was the go-to person organising everything. And she took me outside and pointed up. The clouds had cleared, and there was a full moon, the Vesak full moon, on a night when it should have been a terrible storm. She was crying, and it was inspiring to see that. We did the ceremony. Jeff Gallup came. There was a news channel, so one of the community channels, Channel 38. Was it 38? So it was some weird channel anyway. But they had a cameraman and this reporter, and she was going around taking photos and saying, "This is weird. This is weird. This is weird." That's all she ever said. And we did our ceremony. And as soon as the ceremony was over, people were just so inspired with disbelief that we could do this. As soon as it was over and the Premier left, it rained, poured down. For those of you who know Perth, Supreme Court Gardens that night was 2 inches underwater, and the freeway flooded as well. Kwinana Freeway. And that is very rare. I don't know if it's ever happened since. But we did that ceremony. Not so many people turned up. And they couldn't believe we held a ceremony. Because to the north, the south, the east and west, trees were being uprooted by the storm. The rain was lashing down. No one could believe we did it. And there it was. The hire company, Reese Hire, who gave all the tents to us, they sent an email to the person who was organizing the tents and stuff, and they showed me the email. He said, "We don't know who this Ajahn Brahm is, but can you please contact him and ask who's going to win the horse racing today?" I think I still got that email somewhere. They were really impressed. We stopped the storm. And yeah, okay, sometimes, it's a bit of rain and it stops, but this was a full-on heavy storm. And around Supreme Court Gardens it was dry. Nowhere else. Just a little area around, so we could do our ceremony. We could see the full moon on Waisak night. And you asked the people who were there, they were impressed. So there are Davis. Just check the question. Why did the chicken cross the road? It was because to escape from KFC. No, it didn't work. Okay, I don't know. I trust. There must be a funny answer to that. Dear Ajahn, if we sit in front of the Buddha peacefully, mindfully, ask for our wishes, can we get granted? The Buddha's got more important things to do than answer your wishes. So instead, sit in front of the Buddha and have no wishes. And then peace will be granted. When you have wishes, the only thing you get is suffering. Dear Ajahn, our spirits exist in this hall. Are they good or bad spirits? Can they harm human beings? You told yesterday night, after the death of the consciousness gets separated from the human mind, what happens to this consciousness after that? Where does it go? Can it go to another human being? Please explain. May you long live.
That's 3 times.
3 times. That's terrible. There are such things as spirits. And I always have to tell people who ask such questions, there's one particular ghost which is very dangerous, and I've seen it. I've seen it many times, and I've seen it possess people. I've seen it when it possesses you, you don't speak in your normal language. You can't even do things in a normal way. You can't even walk in a straight line. And it's called in Buddhism the bottle ghost. You got it. It lives in bottles of wine, beer, gin, whiskey, vodka, because when you open the lid, then it gets inside of you and you can't talk in a proper way, and you can't even walk in a straight line, and if you're driving a car it can kill you. That's why it's the most dangerous ghost in the whole world, called the bottle ghost. And that is why we call whiskey spirits. And that is the real bad spirits. And they're the ones which exist, which people should be terrified of. But we're only terrified of the spirits which don't exist. Please be worried about the ones which do. So last question for this evening. What happens to a person who dies in jhana? Do they get reborn with psychic abilities and an inclination towards meditation? Thank you. Number one, it's very difficult to die in a jhana. You become invulnerable if you're in a jhana. Now, there is one sutta and one personal story to say what happens when you're in a jhana. The one in the suttas was of a monk who was in a jhana in the forest, and two Buddhist villagers happened to be walking by, and they saw this monk in jhana. The breath had stopped, and they thought he was dead. Remember, the body has totally vanished from you. You can't hear, you can't see, so even if a doctor opened your eyes and put the light in there, it wouldn't react. The sight has been shut down, you wouldn't be able to feel anything. They shout in your ear, you're not hearing anything. So this is what it's like in jhana. For some people, it looks like you're dead. But interesting, what the suttas say, and what is actually true, the difference, if you're in jhana and you're dead, in jhana you're still warm. You haven't gone cold. So you doctors, if you find me in the hospital bed, or in the hospital, in the emergency room, say he's died, so much for long life. Be careful, just check. If I'm warm, oh, it's only jhana, send me back to monastery. If I'm cold, down the morgue. And don't mess up, because if I'm in jhana, I'm in the morgue, and I come out of jhana, you may be responsible for 2 morgue attendants dying. So anyway, so this monk, they thought he was dead. And they were Buddhists. You won't leave a monk. They thought, I can't leave this monk to be eaten by the jungle animals. We've got to give him a proper funeral. And they were in the forest anyway, so they just collected some wood. It only took them half an hour. Put the monk on top, lit the fire. And once the fire was established, they're busy people. The fire would do the rest of the work. They're not going to hang around to see the monk being cremated. So they knew he was going to be burnt. Big fire, monk on top. Fire had already established, so they went off and did their business, collecting vegetables or whatever. And you can imagine their surprise next morning when that monk came on alms round in the village. Not even his robe was charred or burnt. Because this is from the suttas. According to the suttas, if you get into a jhana, fire won't harm you at all. Not even the clothes you're wearing. The personal story was of an Indonesian monk I got to know many years ago. And sometimes you do meet people with psychic powers, real psychic powers, not just maybe they have them, real ones. They're very rare and they don't usually show off, but as a monk you find out who's got what. And this monk, he got his psychic powers, again from a jhana. He was still a lay person, and he, living in Java, and he just went off into the jungle to live like as a hermit, by himself. And then he told me, I remember talking to him, he said, he got into this meditation, and he said this star came right up to him, and he merged into this star. That was Nimittas. And he said he didn't know how long he'd merged into this star in the jungle. When he came out afterwards, he noticed the forest around him had changed. There's lots of destruction. And it looked like he was submerged underwater in a flood. And he checked with the local village, and yes, he was, for about 6 days. He'd been underwater, totally submerged, maybe twice his body height, underwater. He didn't know a thing about it, perfectly safe. So that's what happens when you get into a jhana. You're perfectly safe. So even if people do make a mistake and they cremate you, your coffin will be burnt, but when they open the oven door, hi, me again. You'll come out of the crematorium just the same as you went in. And not even naked, you'll have your robes on as well. So you don't have to worry if you want to cremate me, but please check afterwards, and then you know if he was in jhana or not. So that's what happens if you die. A lot of times it means you just you're not dead.
Fourth jhana?
No, any of those jhanas. Oh, actually, your fourth jhana you stop breathing, yeah. But sometimes in those jhanas you just don't. You're invulnerable. So if we find out, let's say, there's a meteor, from outer space, it's one of those things which can destroy the earth at any time, coming to Jhana Grove. And actually, the last time we had a retreat here, this is a true story, Ajahn Sujata was in there, and I was checking some emails, said, come in here. And that was when North Korea had actually shot that rocket, that missile, and it came right over Jhana Grove. And we were having a retreat at the time. You can ask him. And he came, come in. And he had this satellite tracker on the internet. And you could see it coming right over Jhana Grove. And we didn't know whether it was going to fall. No one knew when it was going to fall. That's why someone had emailed him and said, better watch out. A North Korean rocket is coming in your direction. And we watched it. And of course it passed over. It fell somewhere in the ocean a long way. But it could have fallen. And I was thinking at that time, okay, I better get into jhana quickly. Because if it fell and you're in jhana, you're safe. If you weren't, you're in big trouble. You might explode. But that was actually a really funny time. You can ask him about that. It's a true story. You could actually see it. No, you couldn't actually see it in the sky. It was too high. But you could actually see it on the satellite tracker coming right over Perth, and right over Jhana Grove. That was weird. Good fun. Okay, well, that's all sorts of weird stories. I don't know if that's got anything to do with meditation or Buddhism, but it was a fascinating, entertaining evening. So thank you for all your questions, and please, no more, may you live long. But anyone who wants to live long, you know the secret of long life? To drink lots of long life milk. As I said, long life milk. So if you drink lots of long life milk, you must live long.